Happy Friday. Get to the waiting room. Admit all. Hope you're all doing well. There we go. Awesome. Happy Friday. Hey, Hubert, Jesus, Guy. Say I should be here.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's hard to believe. Time just goes by so fast sometimes.
Yeah, tell me about it. I'm trying to move studios as well.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I'm actually renovating. I'm shop fitting. Plus, I'm trying to work as a photographer. Plus, doing some coding. So I'm being a superhero.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's not fun.
And I've had my first no sale for over 2 years. I'm really pissed off.
What do you mean by that?
Um,
So you did a shoot and then they didn't buy anything or something? Is that
correct. Not a single penny.
Yeah.
And the pictures are awesome. They said we couldn't afford it, but one's a doctor and one's a teacher, and they're on a decent amount of wages.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Guy. And I'm not. It's all about priorities, right?
Yeah.
And some people have so much debt that even though they make a lot of money, they're not.
They're not liquid.
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
It's
No, I didn't push it. I didn't push it. Shit happens. I mean, for the first one in 2 years, I think I've done rather well for 2 years. But
yeah.
that's where the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. But you're like, if you just didn't buy your extra latte, every day, you could probably afford this in, no time, right?
Yeah.
Are funny. So real quick story here, just while everyone's joining. I have, you might
want to put this on record. You might want to pause the recording so it doesn't record this bit until everyone joins in.
Well, it doesn't. We're not recording. I mean,
okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I don't have any debt, right? I'm a big guy to get out of debt and this that. But I don't have nice cars, right? But I don't care. I'm not
exactly same here. The only debt I've got is my mortgage, and mortgage is something that you can't get out of sometimes.
I don't. Yeah, I don't even have that. But so anyway, so I went to pull up to get lunch at this restaurant, and I get out of my car and I walk in, and there's this other family there, and they go in, and we're all having lunch, separate, right? And I go to leave, and the waitress goes, "Hey, they paid for your meal," and I'm like, why would they pay for my meal? Like, this is weird. And then I'm like, oh, they saw my car.
They thought you were down and out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to fight. I'm like, whatever. Thank you. It really made me laugh though. I'm like, yeah, I'm really
Let me tell you a story. So have you heard of the Coutts Bank in London?
Real quickly though, if anyone has questions, please chime in the chat here if they're working on something. So go for it.
The Coutts Bank in London it's where the Queen banks. You can only have an account there if you have over £1 million cash.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I was on a tour of the bank, and I was talking to they've got one of the fancy people out front with a top hat to, open doors for cars and things. And I was talking to him, and I said, what's your job here? It says, my job is to figure out who the millionaires are and who aren't. Right. It says, it's really, really difficult because some of these millionaires have not washed in years. They stink.
Yeah. Often very wealthy people have crappy cars, Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So because their money is just a means to an end, it's not about showing it off, Yeah. So.
So has anyone got anything they're working on? Need help with? Yeah, that is. It's very true though, Guy. I mean. Anyone?
I actually just joined the call and I was listening to you guys talking about millions of dollars, and I was like, oh, somebody got rich with AUTOHOTKEY. Millions of pounds and stuff, and I was like, oh, finally somebody got rich with it.
Now I'm looking forward to moving to the new building because I've got fiber broadband where things are super quick without that delay and the lag. So Right.
Guy, do you have something? I know it's hard to believe, but I think you probably have something, right?
I always have something, but I want to give other people a chance.
Yeah, but no one's chiming in. So
That's okay.
Okay. Well, I've got some curl things, but I've not actually tried them. So I want to try them. So I'll try them in the background now, and then I'll chime in later on.
Well,
The other quickie I have is to do with launching programs not as an administrator. Is it possible for a script to launch a program when it's not an administrator and then rerun itself as an administrator?
so hold on, let me see if I get your point. So your script is going to launch another script in admin mode.
No, my script is going to launch my CRM in non-admin mode. Okay. And once it's launched, it's going to restart itself in admin mode.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yes, because that's a way to get around starting something, because you can't demote yourself when you start a script.
No, exactly. Yes. So what you're going to do in the auto execute section at the top of your script, you're going to first launch the CRM.
Yes.
And after it's launched, you can wait on it.
Yeah.
And you do the code that we talked about last time.
Run as.
You go ahead and elevate yourself or ask for permissions to elevate yourself to admin.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the issue because the first program was launched not in admin mode.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it, because I'm having issues because the script was launched in admin mode. The CRM is in admin mode, and other programs that are not in admin mode can't interact with it.
Yes, exactly. That is correct. That is going to happen. So there's a lot of reasons why running a script in admin mode is not a good idea. And as we explained and discussed last time, having the issue where it launches anything else in admin mode then causes that issue. That
why would we want to run anything in admin mode?
There are
because if the user's an admin, I'm an admin on this machine. You can't elevate more than an admin.
No, but then you have certain situations in which, for example, let's in general, one of the reasons why to launch a program in administrator mode is to be access to copy files in the program files folder, for example.
Which I don't need.
You cannot do that if you're not an admin mode script.
Okay.
Other locations, if your script is doing some
app data stuff,
for example, or any type of system administrator tasks, you will need your script to be in admin mode.
And let's say you're developing something that you don't want other programs to be able to interact with, right? Exactly. You would purposely make it where it's running as admin, so unless the other programs are an admin, they can't, peek inside.
So, for example, an antivirus would run in this way, in a way that if you're developing an antivirus software, other programs cannot modify your program's memory, because some viruses do that. They try to modify the antivirus memory space to remove themselves from it in memory.
I can't remember why I'm running in admin mode, but the thought is if I not run in admin mode full stop, a non-admin mode can interact with a non-admin mode program. Is that correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's some reason why I went up into admin mode, because I'll just try to kill it and see if anything stops working.
Well, I remember on a live call, Guy, there was a program you were interacting with that was being run as an admin, and that's why we had to run as an admin. But maybe that one also didn't need to be run as an admin.
I think I'm hitting that wall, and if I can come out of admin mode altogether and all my programs and they'll start interacting, right. I've been thinking, how do I get a leg over? I've been thinking of going up rather than just leveling the playing field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
So in this case, I think, let's see if anybody else has other questions. Let me see. Exactly. So GeekDude, I think, is the one that is saying that Chrome and Firefox elevate themselves to make an update, and then AUTOHOTKEY cannot interact with them, for example, until you relaunch the browser in normal mode. which is actually, again, most of the times, most programs, the normal programs, when they run in administrator mode, it's usually to do some updates because they do have to access some folders that they will be able to.
As non-admin, would I be able to access to the registry?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, fine. So
just
it's not
just to read, but to write to certain parts of the registry. So very special places you would
to write in the startup folder. Would I need to be an admin?
No. That one we use it all the time.
Okay, so I think
I'm curious on that one. Is it because there's two different there's your profile and then the overall device, right?
I'm talking about my profile in the registry.
I'm just curious if it matters on that because I don't know. Can you do either one without being an admin?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
In startup, when like the startup menus, there's the for startup just for you, your account, and then for everyone on this device, right?
Right. I think you can access both.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but I think it is on local machine. You can access the local machine run. But hold on. I know I get your point. Because there's two different locations. One of them that is for the current user, which that one you can access because you have access to it. But if it is for all users, I think you're right, Joe. You cannot make run automatically for all users without administrator permission.
Yeah, Geek Dude was saying you can read the A startup common as any user since your profile is read to it to launch programs, but the A startup is good without admin also. So, but A startup common requires admin to write. Okay, so thank you, Geek Dude. Good to see you here, man.
Yeah, it's been a very long while.
So what I think, guys, I'm going to shut up and test out this thing. I'll get back to you if there's a problem, and I'll see you in the later in the advanced hero section.
Excellent. So Guy mentioned curl earlier, and we were talking to him before about API calls, right? And that API calls are amazing. They're a fun, great thing to be able to do. But the one of the things that it's unfortunate is that there's not many examples when you look at the API documentation on doing like a WinHTTP request, right? It's very rare you find that, but you almost always find curl examples. And since curl is automatically installed on your computer and we can control it with AUTOHOTKEY, it's kind of an alternative for doing API calls that are a little simpler to start in an API and read documentation and borrow their code and have a working example.
Yep, that is right. Now, just as you are doing right now, Guy, that you're testing the code and doing some things before kind of like asking your questions. I want to bring out something that we have noticed. Like in the chat, we usually have people who try to ask questions, and more often than not, they do not give you context of what their goal is. So you said, I have some questions for CURL. Yeah, but even if when you go ahead and try to make the question, try to also give context as to what you're trying to achieve in the end, to see if we can help you better. Because sometimes, and I'm not saying that you did this, but in other things, like in other situations we have seen in the chat that people just ask the question like, how do I open a file? And I'm like, yeah, you can open the file this, and that way. Yeah, but that doesn't help. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't tell me what you want to open the file for.
And what kind of file, what program?
Yeah, what are you trying? There's a lot of things that you can go ahead and provide context with. Is good just for me to mention it, because later on we're going to have some questions. Please try to give us a little bit more context of what you're trying to achieve, because that would help us out in the end. Try to help you out with the answer.
Which also, especially in Telegram, using the 3 backticks helps with if you're going to post your code there. It helps it look prettier. But the other one is or use like the GIST or whatever, a repository to host it. But sharing your code is often much easier for us to understand what you're trying to do. Not always, because some people take approaches that we're not understanding what they're really trying to do, right? But with a question without an example of code that's where Zayas is like, we're like, well, what are you, it's really hard to understand what the goal is.
Right, exactly.
But Yeah, awesome. So who's stuck on something? Who needs some help with something? We're already down 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe just a quick question. Hi, Joe. Hi, everybody.
Right.
Good to see you.
Any experience using the caps lock as a keyboard modifier? I don't do that. I never had the need for doing that, but someone requested this for a quick access pop-up, and I'm wondering if it's a safe to use caps lock as a keyboard modifier. Does it mess with your caps lock when you type, when you use it to, for example, do caps lock M? After that, is the keyboard sometimes stays in caps lock mode, or so that I'm just wondering if it is a common usage to use it as a modifier, or if it's not recommended.
I can show you my example. So I use caps lock and S to launch my search tool. Let me scroll down a little here. Oh no, let me move it to. I got too much private information here. Move it on its own thing. But to directly answer your question, John,
Yeah.
it usually doesn't. But I think for me, like sometimes I hit it incorrectly, so I just moved this into my default template, right? But this is I use cap lock and S because caps lock is not a true modifier key, which I know you know, right?
Yeah.
I occasionally, and I think it's because I maybe I hit caps lock A first and miss it, and then do caps lock S. I'll notice my caps lock are on, but it's user error. I think it's not, it's just if you don't hit it properly, then you end up with caps lock being on.
It can happen with the Windows modifier key also, that it will stay open, and I guess it cannot be combined with other keyboard modifiers. Could it be caps lock Alt S, or never tried it?
I don't. Yeah, as Ace, do you know what would I wanted?
I haven't actually tested that. So what happens is that usually, let me try this. Just 1 second. So if you have caps lock and Alt A.
Yeah, I can't get it.
So
I'm asking it because if I add it in quick access pop-up in the dialog box where you can set your shortcut, there are check boxes and you can check one or more of the modifier Shift, Control, Alt. And if I add caps lock there, it could user could want to combine it with others, and maybe it would not work.
No, but basically when I tried it, I had an error. So if I share my screen real quick, if you have caps lock and A, you run it, and you can actually caps lock and A, you get your message box. But as soon as you put the Alt here like that, it would give you an error saying that this is not a valid hotkey. And when I tried it like Alt and A, that also does not work because you cannot have 2 times the ampersand. Is the only one. So this is not possible. It's not doable. It only has to be.
John, the other thing, remember, is this because I use the apps key combo with a lot of things, and I think it's very similar in that because you have to do the ampersand. And what was really fascinating to me, and it took me a while to realize what was going on, was if you used caps lock in another script, suddenly it doesn't, one dominates over the other. They don't play well at the same time running. Does that make sense? So all of my apps key launchers had to be in the same script. So I have a crapload of them, apps key with almost every letter to launch programs. But when I put one in another program, it wouldn't work. And we realized we had to send the apps key through. Isn't that what we did, Isaias, to make it?
Yeah, exactly. So and that brings a lot of other little details. So usually those keys that are not modifier keys should not I wouldn't personally use them as modifier keys unless I really need to. Because they are not for that. They're actually toggle states, right?
Yeah.
So what I would do is use the toggle state to change all my hotkeys. So
Yeah.
basically, like my whole keyboard changes when I press scroll lock, for example. So all my hotkeys, if the scroll lock is on, work differently than if my scroll lock is off.
Okay.
And that way I could have like two different keyboard hotkeys.
Yeah.
So Geek Dude mentioned if you're going to have allow caps lock as a modifier, would be to set the caps lock state as always off, and then you can use the pound if or hotkey it to make the get key caps lock and P a condition for a regular hotkey definition. But I think definitely, I might have to consider set caps lock state, myself, just because I do use it at times. I mean,
yeah. So my conclusion is handle with care. So it's something that can be done, but more to use. Yeah, it's an exception compared to the other. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's good to see you back, Sean.
Yeah. Thank you.
By the way.
I was in Ireland in the last 3 weeks,
Nice.
driving on the other side of the street, which is not easy at the first time.
Just honk your horn and people will get out your way.
Yeah. and just to remind, I didn't say on the wrong side of the street. I said on the other side of the street. Because in fact, I think this is the correct side in the time where you travel with horses. And so it's anyway, I won't get into that.
Yeah, people that have never been here, they're like, what are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
Has anyone else got anything they're working on? I saw Mage wrote some stuff in the chat here as well, using caps lock's key with Windows to send Alt Control Shift.
Right.
I'd love to talk to you in the Hero Hour about this API thing, but because it's not recorded, what time is that? In an hour's time or 2 hours time?
It starts in 40 minutes and it's 2 hours.
Right, but here's the thing. Remember, and we have said that to other people.
Yes,
in
you
the
want
heroes,
context.
Like, no, not only that. It's just that as soon as we mention APIs, it's like that's a big rabbit hole, right?
Okay.
That's a really big rabbit hole. So it depends on the API. So try to get, you know.
I've got everything you need, and I've got everything you need. I've got support from their website. It's something that's not happening for me that I need your expertise and experience with. That's all.
Right. No worries. We'll try.
Because, Alex wrote that stuff that he was trying to do with, a very complex thing. And he's like, can we talk about this during the hero call? And I'm like, it's such an enormous topic. I'm like, and very specific. That's why for him, I said, you know what, we'll just, and I'm not saying for you guys, this is API calls are very common, right?
Yep.
His goal was, anyway, it was so vast. I'm like, we could spend 2 hours talking on this and still not actually.
You will sort it out. It's something to do with syntax. It's something that you guys can nail on the head in a few minutes.
So that's like a tax on alcohol, a syntax.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
That's right.
So I'll see you in about an hour's time. But yeah, enjoy.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else has questions?
Yeah. Or have you worked in? Did we work anything this week, Isaias? It's like more general. I mean, we did very specific stuff.
Not really. I do have something that I can show that I showed what the guys at the Heroes call, but in general, most of the programming that we have been done this week is very specific and very it is just for those particular clients. But I do have one piece of code that I can show. Is really simple. Well, that's the problem. It looks simple to me, but it is a concept that is good to know in general. I don't know if anybody else has questions. I could go ahead and, if nobody else has questions, I could go ahead and show that real quick. Try to go through it.
Gabriel was typing some stuff. I'm trying to understand, but go ahead to start, Isaias.
Okay. So one of the things that you will find yourself doing very often is if you're creating kind of like GUIs, is having buttons on them, right? And I was showing the guys before how you can actually kind of like level that up really quickly with very little code. In here, I have 2 buttons. And what I'm doing for them is just grabbing the handle of the button. The handle is just like a very unique ID for them. And I have an OK button and a cancel button. And then I'm loading some pictures. I'm getting them from a resource DLL. Like, for example, right now in your computer, you have the Shell32 DLL. And I'm just grabbing a specific icon from there. In this case, I'm grabbing the 297 for this one, which is the OK icon, and the 132, and I'm putting it there. And then I'm doing a send message. Now, this send message is the 0xF7, which is about setting icons to buttons. Well, setting icons to many controls. I'm just doing it for a button right now. And those two pieces of code, loading the icons and sending the message, turn your GUI into something very similar to this. Now you have an OK button with an icon in it, right? And you have your cancel button with the icon in it as well. So this is a very simple code that you can use to kind of like make your GUIs stand out a little bit more. You can actually play with that later on. But as you can see, I'm repeating code. I'm loading the picture over and over again. And I'm also kind of like sending messages over and over again. And this is where I would go with a loop. As soon as I have this repeating code, I would try to do a loop. So, and this is a very interesting concept that I usually use in my GUIs if I want to make them stand out. But I just wanted to kind of like show you that this is not that difficult in AUTOHOTKEY. If you're creating GUIs, just learn a little bit about that. Go ahead.
Isaias, can you control the text, or is it the text that comes with the icon, the OK? Oh no, okay, you set the text there. So you
no. So you can say you can set
any
the text to whatever you want. Yeah,
Great.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is a very interesting thing that you could at any point make the text whatever you want. Actually, if you want them not to have text, you could use a space here. Because the button has to at least have something, and I could make the button size, let's say 16 by 16. Let me see how that looks. And now I have a button. Well, I would make it a little bit bigger. Let's make it, 20 by 20 or something like that. Let's see how that looks.
Would it be
but in general, you can have let me see, 32 by 32. Yeah, you can have buttons without text. Of course, we can play a little bit around them.
And you could use larger icon if you load a larger icon.
Yeah, so, here's where I control the size of the icon.
Yeah.
So I just forced it to be 16 by 16, but I could make it bigger. But in general, this concept of placing an icon in a button is something that
it's so easy.
It is really easy. The problem is that people don't know that you can do that. And that's the reason why I'm trying to kind of like, but again, your button must have at least something, some text in it. If it doesn't have a text, it's not
the icon won't load. Okay.
Right.
So the load picture function, is that part of V1 built in?
Yeah, this code is V1. This whole code is V1. So again, all of this, the concept is create your button, load an icon, and basically I'm just making sure that I'm loading an icon. And then this is the important part, send message. This is a message that you can get more info about it in MSDN button messages. And I think it is called BM set image. This is the BM. Yeah, this is the message that I'm actually sending. And here you have the parameters. The W param must be the type of image. That could be 1 if it is an icon, or 0 if it is a bitmap. And the L param is the icon that you're passing, which is exactly what I'm doing. 1 for icon, and the L param, the other parameter is the handle to the icon, which is the one that I loaded. After that, I just tell it where I'm going to put it. In this case, I'm using AHK ID and the button, which is this handle up here. And so you just, I'm going to share the code so that you can play with it.
Yeah, good.
We're going to put that in the in the hero group, or where are you going to share it?
We'll put it both in the YouTube chat because that's where we're streaming now. But we'll also put it in Telegram. But
right. So
create
this
a
is the
test
code.
and then
So how
Okay,
easy it is
so
to
let
put
me-
pictures in the buttons as in bitmaps as opposed to just
No, you just
an
use
icons.
you see the load icon here, this load picture function.
Yeah.
You might need to put what type of image you're loading. If you're loading an image, if you're loading, because in this case, I'm loading a DLL with an icon, but you can
Yes.
load definitely an image like image.png,
JPEG.
like that.
No,
Right.
okay, not a bitmap.
You can do that too, but they are considered bitmaps anyways.
Okay.
But you can
No,
try
I'm saying
that.
is, can I put a JPEG in there, or does it have to be a
sure.
PNG?
No.
Okay.
You can, if you go ahead and take a look at the load picture documentation, it tells you what you can use.
Okay.
But in general, after you load it,
Mhm.
then you can try to put it here. The one thing is that I'm not, well, yeah. So if it is a BMP, you have to change this number to, I don't know what it is, either 1 or 0 or 2.
Okay.
We would have to take a look at here what a here image bitmap or image icon, you would have to find what they mean. You will have to find the number that they represent, because those are variables.
Okay.
So let me create the gist here. Let me make it public. I will add the can I edit? Yeah, let me make it .hk button icons .hk updated. And
Just
now,
a caution about using icons from the shell32 DLL file or image res file. In the long run, if you want to make something that will last a long time, the number, for example, 297 that you have for icon for the OK could change in future Windows version. I've seen that from XP to Windows 7 to even inside the same Windows 7 version from one release to the other. In some case, maybe not for these, but they will just insert an icon before it will offset the rest of the file. So it happened a few times. So that's why I stopped using these files and I just create my own DLL file with the icons that I'm sure they will stay at the same number. If it's for yourself, it's not a big issue. But if you do something to be distributed, then at some point your checkbox, your OK button could look like a delete button.
Yeah.
What would be really useful then, John, is to be able to understand how to create a DLL with your icons in it.
We will talk about it. We have a video. We have a video on the Automator that actually goes with a tool called Resource Hacker that allows you to create.
That's not easy, but you can follow the procedure and the.
I actually, when I was checking on Resource Hacker, I saw that they had an update that fixed exactly the same issue that I was complaining about, which was that you could only select one file at a time to create this resource folder. But they fixed that, and now you can select several.
You can create a batch file. I do it with batch files, so it does it one at a time. But
they actually had an update.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I see Gabriel here in the call. I think you can go ahead and try to explain. Let me see, because I didn't read the whole thing. And I have mentioned a command to identify the window handle from within Chromium, the debugging tool.
Well, that's what I don't think I ever saw a response to how is he controlling, Edge?
No, because in AUTOHOTKEY,
I'm in the call now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's why I asked him to go ahead and try to explain a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so definitely using the chrome.hk, which is just like calling into their Chromium API. So what I have right now, let me share what I have right now.
So the author of that Geek Dude is on the call right now with us.
Oh.
Yeah, he's also here.
That's awesome.
Maybe he will be able to actually answer way better than I can.
So this is edge.ahk, which is basically just a translation of chrome.ahk. I have this custom little function here, activate, which just calls this API call page.bring to front, and it's able to bring the, like, say if I have this tab, for instance, open, and I want to open up this particular tab.
Sorry, I'm not seeing the tabs, by the way. I think they're in a different screen or something.
Blacked out box, kind of.
Right. We have, well, yeah. Now, well, hold on. Yeah, because in Zoom, you cannot share both screens at the same time. So you have to always pick one. What we do is that we move stuff into one window and then we share that.
Is it,
yeah, now I can see. Yeah, now I can see the edge.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm able to basically through the API call, it'll list out like all of the pages.
Can you do something for me real quick? I'm sorry. Can you press Control Alt Shift H?
Control Alt.
That'll blow up your
to
computer.
hide the tools from Zoom. Control Shift, like the three. Yeah, now I can see the tabs. Go ahead now.
So with the API call, it's able to list out all of the titles.
Tabs,
of the,
yeah.
Yes. So I'm able to use the command page.bring to front, which was listed in the forum, in order to get the particular tab that I want. But sometimes, like say if I have another Windows instance open, like two browser windows open, it may not always activate the right window as well. So in order to get around that, I would just activate the first MS Edge process, and thankfully, when page.bring to front is executed, it will fortunately put the window in priority. So if there's two windows and I use page.bring to front on this tab, it will make sure that in the order of windows that one's the first one. So it's somewhat useful, but I don't know how reliable it is. In a perfect world, I'd be able to get not only the tab focused, but I'd be able to know what the window handle of this particular tab's parent, I guess, is as well.
I think I understand where you're going with this. Maybe I don't know if Geek Dude is here, if he can act. Yeah, he might actually. He's answering in the chat that he's saying that he thinks there's a way to get the page title. I think yes, you can. The window title should be updated to the page title when the page becomes active. I would try win active on both message edge and the page title. So you see your win activate. So can you go to your function here? What he's saying is not only put this part, but also put the tab title right there. Now, so you see that you have page bring to front. There is another one that is get the title, like page title or something like that, if I remember correctly, when I was just working with it. So he's saying grab the page title, put it right here, and that would not only activate the edge that the first edge, it's also going to make sure that the title that is actually active is the one that gets activated. So that's a more robust approach.
Yeah, I agree. Cool.
There you go.
Even the ACC library might be a solution to help if that doesn't work. So I think it was Hamad was asking Isaias in the YouTube chat. I was getting a little confused on it, but he wants to have a hotkey like control. He was saying control message box, which doesn't. I guess the control key is the hotkey. Sorry. Okay, message box. You press control and then return. Unfortunately, it comes through really poorly in the YouTube chat. And then control Q is message box. You press control. But anyway, he was saying freeze control until.
No, I understand what he's trying to do. So when he presses control, he wants to show one message box. When he presses control Q, then it shows a different message. But basically what is going on here is that as he has said, as different hotkeys, when he presses Control Q, he's going to get 2 message boxes probably.
Well, but I don't understand the part that says I want to freeze control until pressing Q.
Yeah,
That's what I was like. I don't understand what.
probably that he doesn't want control by itself. It is true. It is actually confusing what his goal is. Now, hold on. Now, the question is if he could explain what the end result is. Like, for example, the reason why I'm doing this is because I have 2 hotkeys and one of them is interfering with the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the other things that we
need to know exactly what you're trying to get at.
Sometimes it's easier sometimes it's better to give us examples of your code and then we can understand it. And sometimes it's better to say this is what my goal is, and then we will help, write a solution. But there's never one answer.
I was trying to process exactly how I could do an example that might relate to what he's doing, but I'm not really sure yet.
Well, we as AS, we remember because Maestruth was the one that solved it for us. What were we doing with our hotkey string lookup tool? We were trying to have it where it could disable hotkeys, and he's like, we were trying to go control it in that program, and he's like, just make one locally, right, or whatever, and disable the hotkey. Which is that possibly what he's wanting to do? Is just be able to have a toggle to disable a certain hotkey?
On a different script is what you mean?
No, on the same script, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm just remembering the, our use case from it. Yeah.
Yeah. When he gives us a little bit more context, then we might be able to give a better answer, because right now I'm not really sure. I got interference, how to skip this. So he's having interference and he's trying, because both hotkeys, so he has 2 hotkeys at the same time and he wants only one of them working, but which one do you want to work?
So when you press Control Q,
right? So let me. I think I'm understanding. Yeah. So this is the interesting thing. So if you have Control, message box, Control, and Control Q, message box, Control Q. What is going to happen is that this one is always going to block that one from working, but mainly is because of the message box. Because while the message box is open, you cannot do this. So if I do something else, let's try sleep 100. I think I should be able to see the second hotkey. Now, there it is. Because Control is not blocking it. As soon as you have a message box here, what is going to happen is that the message box, the first message box, is not going to let you press Control Q. Well, it does. But here's the thing. You want this one to not work, right? Let me try something. Let me see something.
Is it the fact that Control is part of Control Q? Is that what he's saying? Is he's trying to hit...
So at this point, when I press Control Q, for example, I get this message box, but I never get the first one. Do you want to have both? Because if that's the case, you would have to change this to up, so that when you release the control, it's going to show up. So right now, if I say Control Q, so hold on, let me try something. What was that?
I would just argue, I'm not talking how to do stuff about it, but I wouldn't have a hotkey based off just Control in the first place, personally, right?
Yeah.
Like it's. If there's always a use case where maybe you need something really fast, right? Like I get it. Maybe use caps lock instead, right? Yeah. Something that you don't use that often.
Actually, the one that is best, it would be scroll lock, because that one I have never seen anybody using that. So this one is a very good one. And then scroll lock, usually the way how I figure out what the heck that was, it was in Excel. In Excel, if you have to scroll lock pressed, when you use the arrow keys, it actually moves the screen. So actually allows you to scroll with the arrow keys. That's what it usually does. But most people don't use that. I would just use that instead of just a modifier key. And this goes back to the same thing that we were talking with John. With John. It was the difference between modifier keys and toggle keys. If you want a hotkey to just happen when you press one button, that would be a toggle key. I wouldn't use a modifier key as a toggle. That's the way that.
So Nikhil was asking, he wanted to use multiple columns in Excel, which we need to know a little more about what do you mean by use. Hopefully you're using COM, and unfortunately we can't share that data with the thing we just did, as I was going to say, because that was one thing else we did was pretty cool, but I'll have to generate some other data at some point and then show what we're doing, because the overall process is pretty cool. But yeah, as far as in Excel, I have a ton of, let me change the URL over my head here.
Yep.
I got a ton of videos on doing Excel with COM. I have a great Excel function library, which makes it much easier to work with a lot of stuff. But yeah, are you trying to get data, select data, copy, delete, bold? Like there's 8 million things you could do in Excel with, multiple columns. You basically want to get a range, connect to the active program, and then the active, tell your location, and then either copy the data, select it, whatever.
The library that you have for Excel might help this person a lot. And basically just by going to that link, you would be able to get the
there's a lot of videos. I want to copy the data from multiple columns in Excel. Well, and then paste them in software. So first off, when you say multiple columns, but is it a select, because, there's, 1 million rows possible in Excel, right? So you probably don't want to grab the entire columns, right? It's maybe the used range from a certain, thing. So we could programmatically detect, start the beginning down to a certain endpoint in that row. You want to start doing an example on this, Zayas, and we'll talk through. We'll just guess, and he can correct us here. Or you can, Nikhil, if you can join the Zoom call.
Again, everybody, it is a little bit easier when they join the Zoom call, right? So what we could do, let me try and, before I do that, let me get the path to the Excel library included and try to show what we do with that.
One row at a time. So then you do a for loop over each cell, which is really easy to do as well. If you really need it that way. I would also argue, depending if your data is very structured and it's not going to change, grab it all at one time and then just loop over the contents instead of grabbing them individually, right? So that way it'll be faster when you access the data.
Right.
Are you sharing?
I'm going to share it now.
Okay, sorry.
So I was just including the Excel library, and this is what it looks like. The first thing that we need.
Yeah, the very first thing is the handle.
Yes. So let's go ahead and get our hand. Well, I included it, but this is how we do it. And we need one, and this is going to be my Excel. And actually, for whatever reason, I don't know what happened, but this got changed somehow. I don't know why, but so I would get a handle, and let's get Excel open. For whatever reason that it's not working on my end. Let's have some data. These are my columns. And then, so hold on. What I need to do is this. So what you're trying to do is access, for example, one column and copying the data. That's what I'm understanding, right?
I think you said multiple.
Right, but we could go one column at a time and just add it to the clipboard as we go along, right? So one of the things that we can do is let's first make sure that this is actually working. Message box is object Excel. Let's see if we get, let me make this a F1 hotkey, turn, run it, F1. Well, it is an object, so I got an Excel object, and let's go from there. So one of the first things that I want to do is find stuff. We had the find function. This finds in a specific Excel, you can tell it where to look from A1 till, I don't know, let me see what my range would be. Yeah, J12. So in my table, notice that I'm giving it a range. You can actually play with this and make it like the whole thing if you want. And I could find something specific. Let's say header 9.
But I think he knows the range. I think he just needs...
right.
Let's just select the range and show how to copy it into the clipboard, which I think there's some about copying text.
Oh, so you mean like, oh, hold on. What was that? I thought that I could find something like that. Now, so it seems to be that the Excel object didn't like that call for whatever reason. Huh. I will. This is the issue. So when we work with maybe the range that I'm giving is incorrect. Let's see. So can we get the active selection, Joe?
Sure.
Right. How can you?
Yeah, but there's also just search for copy.
Copy this. Oh well. Copy to clipboard, and I have a range.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, there's a lot of built-in things in here. I mean, obviously, there's 8 million things you can do with Excel, so it doesn't cover everything. But
right. Let's go ahead and use this range, which would be I1 to I12. I1 to I12. Is that the problem here? No, message box, clipboard.
well, you're gonna have.
Yeah, the problem with this is that it's not giving me that I have to do what? I'm sorry.
Well, you're gonna have to. I don't remember that function. Does it actually automatically dump it into the clipboard?
Let's see.
There's
It's copying it to the clipboard.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm just passing in a range. The only problem is that it's saying that you cannot, this particular thing, I'm passing it.
What version of the library do you have? Because my only thought is the that handle might be a different.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. The handle is returning an application here.
Yeah, which is fine.
Uh-huh. See, and it actually the first one worked, so I'm not really sure why it's not working right now. Yeah, I think
in version 1.
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's something. Well, maybe it's the, as I mentioned, is probably the range that I'm passing. No, it's just rejecting the call for whatever reason. Oh, it is actually when I'm trying to get the application. So it's just this one is the one failing. For whatever.
Oh,
reason.
hey, go back to your Excel file.
Uh-huh. Oh, to the Excel file. Yeah.
All right. Try it now. If you
without selection?
if you're in a cell, it'll definitely break.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if you are double clicked in a cell in Excel, Excel locks itself.
Right. Okay. I understand. Yeah. Okay. I get what you mean now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's annoying.
Something. Yeah, because Excel is in a special state that is the handle is not being retrieved because it is actually.
But now a way to work around that, because that's an interesting thing.
There might be a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is that yeah. So right now, what I'm doing is using the Excel copy to clipboard function to get a specific range into my clipboard. So I would do this, and it just brings me the whole. Now, to determine this, there is another function that we could use to get selection. So you could get what the selected range is, right? So you can select like this, and we have a function that tells you what the selected range is, and then we pass that to this function, and it would just copy it. So
or we could use the last row, and then you would know, hey, I want column F, and I want F starting, and we actually have one for the used range versus last row and whatever, and you can programmatically say start in column F1 and go till the last row, right?
Yes.
Like it programmatically, so if your data fluctuates, it's really nice to be able to do
Yeah, because we do have a lot of find last.
no, not find, just last row.
Oh, last row.
Yeah.
Last row. There it is. So this thing, you can use it for getting the last row.
And just store it in a variable, yeah.
Right. And now I could use that to pass it
Right.
here as the last row. And we could say which column, right? So right there, what should happen here is that I should get a number, which if I notice that the number is 12. So the first message box is 12. That's my last row. And now it's going to go from I1 until the last row. It could have many others. So right now, if I just change my data to, you know, copy the data a little bit more, I don't know how many rows there are, but my script should definitely just tell me what the last row is automatically, and it would just copy the whole thing because it knows what the last row is. So again, this library is really useful when you're dealing with Excel. There's a lot of nice functions that you can use. And
I made a video, if you go look at that page, on, hey, if there's something that's not in my library, here's how you hit record in Excel, you know, do the stuff, and then go borrow some of the stuff and adapt it to AUTOHOTKEY, because it's usually pretty easy. Hey, Tom. Good to see you.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello, Thomas. Hi.
A little late. I had some technical difficulties here. With
Only 4 minutes to the next call, so yeah.
yeah. I figured.
You know, but good that you joined. You know, good to see you.
Geek Dude, and I'm trying to look at it without copying and pasting it. Is that an I,
yeah, or LL. Let me see. Let me try that. I'm not really sure about that, because in Excel it works. So directly in Excel, that's a valid range. So let me share my screen again and try it out. I closed the thing. So for whatever reason,
but I don't like always having absolutes, right? I was going to say there's absolutely no reason to be sending keystrokes to Excel, right?
Right.
But
no, there's
every once in a while you're doing something, it's so simple, you know, there's always a case. But yeah. The fact
so
that
this actually works. Just using the because it would allow you to use any range that Excel recognizes. So I to I means grab the whole column I. Right, and let me just make sure that it also gets the header. So right now, if I go ahead and run this code and I hit F1, it starts from the header down. So again, you can definitely just tell it what column you want, and you could then just, well, I want the column I, or just do this, 4, col in. B, D,
in
and I, right? And
yeah, I have an example in that file. It's commented out, but it's how to loop over cells, because it's not an actual function, but it's just an example, because I'm like, I would often forget. But using like the offset is incredibly powerful. The other really great thing is, like, if you often develop reports and then you spend time to adjust the column widths and shading, all the stuff, you can programmatically do that, and it's not hard, and you can make them stuff look great and have it as a program where you just hit a hotkey and it updates it for you, and it's awesome.
Right. But you would do something similar to this, in which you would just go for each column that you want to copy, and then just go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. And so let me do this, because I know what is going on, that the function does not return it. So this copies it to the clipboard, and then I need the clipboard. And then, there we go. So now if I go ahead and run this, I should have you know, each column, the number 2, the 4, and then I, like this. I could definitely see this, and you just have to tell it which columns you want, which is great. Actually, this functionality, and again, Excel has a ton of interesting stuff that you can do with it. But as soon as you start doing loops, it's great for you because now you can get all the data you want, however you.
And just, you know, to think outside the box, you can actually have AUTOHOTKEY insert formulas for you as well in Excel. So the Excel formulas, instead of hard coding values, you can have it shove in formulas, which then use the spreadsheet, which is really great because that way, if your data updates, it's not hard coded, right? So it's really cool. So we're at our time. We got to jump to the Heroes meeting, but thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
Good seeing you, John. Glad you're back.
Bye.
Have a good day.